Hello, everybody. I hope that you all had wonderful days outside. Sounds like maybe Rob might not have been outside very much, but hopefully it was a good day inside then. And let's head over into Collectively Rewilding. All right. So much going on. As you see, I had to add a tab for Ethel. She's been sharing so much as well. So now I have a few comparatively in Miss Ethel's, and Tammy's is so long I can't even see the whole list. That's why I had to move them up to the front because it's just so much good material. Probably won't ever be able to get through all of it, Tammy, but it's some really, really good material from you both. And here oops, wrong thing, going right on in. Looks like there's been some new activity. Let's go ahead and click that button. So tons going on all the time, all the time. It's the quickening season. It's spring's almost over. Things are coming up or well established even, especially depending on where you are. There's a new YouTuber that I've been watching some of his material on, and I like his thought process. He's over in, I believe, North Carolina. It's one of the Carolinas, and he has blackberries already. And I have an established blackberry vine. I don't know if it's the kind that needs I don't know if I'm getting the word right or not, but I believe it was a determinant, and that's the standing stalk, and then you have the vining pieces. And according to him, some of the newer varieties of blackberries don't need both of these pieces in order to be ready to put on fruit. But the older varieties, the more they're hybridized. They're not GMO or anything that he's talking about. These newer varieties, they're hybridized, meaning that they've just been specifically grown around other plants and things like that. More like, I think it's Mendel, the gentleman with the peas, hundreds of years ago, right? That's when you start breeding different plants together. That is hybridization, okay? Not a genetic manipulation in the same way. It's a natural sort of deliberate manipulation. It happens in the wild if the right types of plants are near enough to each other. You have to have, for a lot of the trees that I've been researching, I've never gotten to have a lot of interaction with trees. My father always kind of cut those babies down if they were around. And the few properties that I've had trees on where I was renting were never fruit trees. So I think we did have one in Wyoming, perhaps, that was an apple tree. That it wasn't a great apple tree, but I think it put off a little bit of apples, perhaps was the closest. And so learning about these trees, there are several different types of fruit trees that have to have a different variety of the same type of fruit. I believe peaches were one of them. Cherries might be one of them, but you can't just have the same type of cherry tree, if that's the correct. Like I said, I'm still a little new to this tree, especially fruiting trees world. And so I'm learning as I go. And this is something that he's talked about. And I lost my train of thought. I apologize. With the blackberries, right? So it doesn't matter. I have both kinds, and I actually know they're invasive, so I'm not really worried about treating it very delicately. And I think Saturday, I kind of pushed it over. Yes, here we go. Either Saturday or Sunday, one of the tall stalks I pushed over. It was already a little bit over, but it was going to spring back up. And I don't really, I'm not really promoting this blackberry. I'm not going to get rid of it. I may keep it cut back. I want to have to keep an eye on it. It isn't invasive qualities yet, but the yard has not been maintained. So I'm sure it's been struggling to stay alive. And now it's going just a little bit crazy here. These are all blackberry vines except this guy right here. I want to find out. I don't think it's a milkweed, but I do want to check before I just get rid of it. If it's not a milkweed, I'll get it out of these areas here. And so I want to see what this cane more like or stalk part of the blackberry will do when it's pushed over and pushed down to the ground. The vine will do what these guys did, and they'll just start again. I covered up the vine when I put some soil and wood chips in this little corner here that had been neglected, and they came up and just started all of these as new vines. So I'm going to train them to go over the bedroom window right here and see if we get any blackberries. There's another stalk that's down in the window well here because I had trained it already last fall into the window well, and it overwintered. It burned the leaves in the winter, but they actually didn't fully die out. I was really impressed. And so that vine is still growing great, and it had started a stalk down there. That stalk fell over, I think probably because of the watering, and window wells aren't really meant to support a lot of life. So that was a lot for that window well to try to support. If it would have been more towards the middle instead of right up on the edge of the window well, it might have done better. But again, I'm not worried about it. I'm not trying to save these guys. They're going to do what they're going to do. And if they do very much, I'm going to start cutting them back heavily every year to keep them in control if they start producing blackberries. I haven't seen any flowers or anything yet. And these are well established. They were here and had been here probably for at least a year or two before we came. And so now if they don't put out flowers this year, with all the transition, that's one thing. If they don't put out flowers next year, I'll be aggressively getting this out. It's not something you want very much of anyway. As I mentioned, it's invasive. And if it's not even going to produce blackberries, it's time to just start pulling that sucker out of there. All right. Tons of green growing. I couldn't get my words out there. I apologize. I cleaned up a bunch of areas. Here you can see one of the mushrooms and some of the seedlings that are growing up around it, which just indicates health as long as you don't have too much. And I do think that this rose bush is going to die. This is one that came with us in a pot, and I've had for approaching maybe 3 years now, definitely over 2 years. I've managed to eke it along. As I mentioned before, container gardening is not my skill set. And I've kept it alive. I put it in the ground. I put it in Mel's mix. I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the Mel's mix. I wasn't worried about keeping track at that point because I didn't have a corresponding type of a plant that I could put in. I just wanted to see how it did. It was doing fine and it was starting to come back. And then I started watering for all of these seedlings. And because Mel's mix will drain appropriately, but it will retain a lot of water, and rose bushes like it to get wet and then to dry out relatively well, and then to get wet and dry out relatively well. And this got too much water, especially because of the retention of Mel's mix. And the leaves started kind of almost rotting on the edges. It's like they're drying up, but it really isn't drying up. It's the opposite of drying up. And they're starting to die out. And if it doesn't put out some new leaves soon, I'm pretty sure that rose bush is going to finally die. So I would not recommend Mel's mix for rose bushes. Probably I wouldn't recommend what I've got right now is CR's mix. And as I'm working with this, I want to show you guys where we are with the different potted plants that have a more truly double-blind study. I can't provide the exact same environment because I'm on a smaller property. There's a lot of trees here, and we were hoping to be able to use the lights for our older dog. She's gotten better again, though, and is able to do it without because I had to move these up into the front. The only thing I could think of why they're not coming up the way that they should be is because of the lack of sunlight up on our front porch area. And so this is the one that is doing the best. This is the first one, and it is the garden soil. It's not CR's mix. It's not Mel's mix. It is the garden soil. Look how great that first bulb is doing. And now that it's out in the full sun, again, it's the first one that has sprouted fully with one of those bulbs. There's 3 bulbs per container, and the garden mix has just done better the entire time. With them having a little bit of different light conditions, that could have been a part of it. However, the CR's mix then sprouted, and the Mel's mix, even with moving forward, has still not sprouted. So I'm not really thrilled with this whole 3-component mix, even though the compost is a 5 or 6 blend as we did. I think I really do like working with garden soil. It may just be me. I've never been great with containers, as I've said. However, I followed the instructions and put the mix pretty well as by eyeball. That's what he talks about, and by volume, not by weight or any of these kinds of things, that it's supposed to be equal parts when you look at it. 3 sized parts, even though they're different materials. And so they would fill differently if you like took all the air out of the peat moss, perhaps. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the different components. I have all the different possibilities in my head now. There's about 4 replacement or more sustainable alternatives and actual Mel's mix. Oh, the vermiculite. The vermiculite and peat moss and and compost. They are a little bit thicker. They wouldn't suck out as much, but with the rice hulls as a replacement possibility for a more sustainable mix, if you sucked all the air out and could leave the rice hull pieces, they're very fine and very compostable. They're very delicate in and of themselves. They shred very easily. But if you could suck the air out, they would compost, or they would compress down to a much smaller, well, at that point, volume, because you've sucked all the air out. But when you're looking at making the mix, it was 3 parts equal. And either way, Mel's mix, equal parts, CR's mix, equal parts, is not having as good of luck as the garden soil. Oops, let's see, let's go back. That's the new one. I don't know how far back we need to go to be able to show it, so we won't worry about it. But the overall point is, at least for me, and different methods work well for different people. That is not a good idea. I'm going to completely reconfigure CR's mix. I will be using the more sustainable elements. I would like to mention that the sand that we think of as sustainable is no longer sustainable. There is too much pulling of sand from its natural environments in like the riverbeds and lakes. I believe the little video that we shared in here, provided by Anita Giesler, that one talked about the fact that we're just dredging up all the sand at a rate faster than the earth replenishes the sand, because it is an ongoing process and the earth does constantly produce new sand. However, we're using it up faster than the earth produces it. We're digging past our regular sand, getting into the older sand, and we're seeing problems from it. And this company that we shared the video of is grinding up glass, and the way that they're doing it, it's not sharp, and it's glass is sand. We heat sand, it becomes glass. Not the exact same components when you grind it down as it was when you melted it to become sand, but it is, or to become glass, but it is very comparable, and it has similar chemical structures, I believe, and things like that. They didn't go as finely into those details, but they did very rigorous educational based, meaning that an education, a higher education institute. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. We've been working so hard over these last 3 days that my brain is not putting the words to my mouth. I can think them, but getting them out is a little difficult. An institute of higher learning, collegiate level branch of education. It worked with this company, and I don't remember it right off. It's all there in the video. I think I may have said the state. I think it was Louisiana. So it was one of the Louisiana colleges or universities, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And it is happening in Louisiana, that's for sure. And they're using it to replace banks in the coastal areas. And they did a ton of studies before they just started doing this in larger areas, because they wanted to make sure that it would be okay, that it wouldn't be something that was sharp or cause other kinds of problems. And so it was really neat, and it's something to think about. So I'm going to use a very small amount of sand. Desert sand doesn't work because it's blown so constantly. It's round. It's too round, apparently. You have to use these other types of sand sources. And so I'll use a very small amount of sand. And I wonder if in gardening that's not a little different, because many of the plants that we grow are desert plants. And so you would think that maybe desert sand would work in the garden. So I'm actually going to write that down. I want to do a little bit of research on that and see if desert sand works in gardening as opposed to manufacturing and construction, glass making, perhaps even, right? It doesn't work for coastal rebuilding. It's too circular. It doesn't have the edges of sand that allow for, gosh, I can't remember exactly what the problem was when it came to sand, but they don't work for the more industrial side of sand use. And so definitely that's a good thing to look into, because that would deplete less of these other sources. There is more of that type of sand. It doesn't sound like we're taking a lot there, and there's a lot of it around me naturally. So just something to think about, right? All right, very interesting. All right, switching topics. Oh, no, not switching topics. So what I'm going to do is take the sustainable variations of CR's mix, and I'm going to continue to use those. We removed sphagnum moss from the list, right? I did give up on my moss sets. That was the last thing there. In fact, if I refresh this, and oh, this is the type of sand that sometimes is created with these specialty glasses. Very pretty, of course, right? And I had also just read an article that said glass wasn't good as a mulch. Now, I wonder if that article had any awareness of this particular company that's doing the, not mulch, they're creating it, it can be used as mulch. They have gradients. So they have a thicker, not that thick, but just as an example, they have a thicker and it keeps going down until it's the finer, that's the sand quality. And let me just refresh this because, oh, where is it at? Must not have uploaded. I apologize. I think that I have some newer pictures here. Let me just grab my photos. Sometimes my, there we go. All right, now let those upload, and we will take another second to refresh here, silly thing. And these are the moss sets. I'm taking back my space. That's what these are about. There's just not enough success with them. I have tried very diligently to keep the right sort of environment. I've managed to stop any mold growth from happening with them, keep them relatively consistently moist, and they're still just not doing well, even though the dome has a little bit of a misting from the moist environment that is present inside their little cupcake containers. It is not working. No matter what I do, I would have to spend so much intensive time trying to just get these guys right, where there's never any direct sunlight, never any direct water contact, all these things, keeping it wet, never letting it dry out. It's not a simple plant. And so we have placed it over here. Jay did that for me so that I could go do other things, just both of us and our children running around everywhere. So busy, it's crazy. And so he's got them over under one of the rose bushes that's already established here, the yellow rose bush, and it kind of doesn't get a lot of direct water where this is at. And I'm wondering if I maybe placed some sort of screen or netting there that might, in a frame, that might let the water come through that, which would create that more mist-like environment that they're looking for underneath evergreens and things like that in the forest where the trees are so close that water gets down, but it's never like direct water. It just kind of filters down through the trees. That's the type of environment that it's looking for. But also it doesn't really want a lot of leaf mold. It wants that more evergreen type of, I don't know if substrate's the right word, but the topsoil level, whatever, it wants something that doesn't have a lot of detritus that's coming down. So it's a very specific plant, not renewable, definitely not renewable. We'll remove that one off of the list. And in the new variation of CR's mix, we're going to use the blended compost. Again, mine's just got 6 because I already had a brand here and I wanted to add in steer manure and chicken manure. So there's a nice good blend of compost, as well as rice hulls and clay pellets, or maybe coconut coir with some of this different mix. I haven't looked enough yet still at coconut coir to see if it would be more like towards the rice hulls is what I'm guessing, rather than towards the clay pellets, which last a little bit longer, don't decompose quite as quickly. And I'm going to put more of the soil component, the blended soil mix, as well as some garden soil. I just disagree with this premise that garden soil is bad, that it's inherently bad. I don't think that that's the case. I think that these bulbs clearly show that garden soil has value. I don't doubt it at all now, because the second set of bulbs that are already showing in the garden soil, but not in the CR's mix, and nothing still in the Mel's mix, leads me to believe that garden soil has its own qualities, just as most of nature does. So I will have a component of garden soil. If anything, it would be equal parts to, say, rice hulls, clay pellets, garden soil, and the 5 or 6 blend for the compost, and also a little bit of sand, probably in a half measure to any of the other parts, and mix all of that together. And that's what I would like to try next year, as we're going in to be able to hopefully put in a lot of the actual garden beyond getting the soil ready, getting these soil structures completed, getting the Walipini in, figuring out what we want to do with the irrigation. I still toss that up and down in my head, how I want to incorporate that irrigation. And I think what I want to do is flatten out all of the pieces that we have already for the berms around the yard, place the irrigation, and then I'm going to place the little bitty logs that we have in with separated areas, and I don't want them straight. I want them kind of canted so that there's more soil for the roots to come down around them, and then they'll kind of cement that all in place, glue it all together, maybe is a better, bring it all together into cohesive structure with those roots around it, but still plenty to come in, and then those water batteries, as the Millennium Gardener calls it, where they store all that nice water inside those little logs, but never blocking the roots from being able to continue on down into the soil. And so that is what I'm thinking we'll do going into the irrigation process, which will probably happen at the beginning of next spring, maybe in the fall. That would be ideal. If we could get it in this fall, I would love it. So we'll just have to see. It's an ongoing process, and it does take a lot of time with all of us all having that paycheck job that we have to do generally as well, right? Okay, let's see. Continuing on, there are just seeds throughout everywhere that I've planted. There is one part of the largest berm swale system on the most westerly side that I just about cannot keep wet, no matter what I do, no matter how well I am on top of it, by having to water the other areas. And I'm not just going to keep water on it. It wouldn't even make sense, because those structures, pardon me, those structures are designed to capture water. And when they have the plant life is when they're really going to work the way that they're designed, but they are already working much better than what just like flat, dry soil would be, even though they don't have any kind of plant life. And so you'll get puddling of water amidst the areas that are trying to dry out. So it's a really delicate balance, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get a whole lot of plant life to come up on that farther westerly side of that berm. Now, as all of the other plants come in everywhere else next year, even if we can't quite get any life going right there that we want, there's of course the yuckier weeds that are of course a type of ground cover. That's why I call them nature's band-aids. And I don't mind certain types of weeds, even in the yard or the garden area where the backyard is and the side yards are. There's softer weeds that aren't super problematic once you start dealing with everything. They're good for the soil. The mallow, I think maybe is indigenous. It's a common mallow, not a cultivated mallow. It's everywhere. If it's not, it's been completely naturalized. It's been here for so long. And those kinds of things are really good for the soil, and they will easily allow you to get rid of them with other things when you're ready to move forward, compared to things like foxtails with their nasty, nasty seed heads. Oh my gosh, there's braid themselves into the soil. As I'm trying to get rid of those that have grown up, we keep taking them out, and the ground cover will come up and help to start eliminating those through a more natural process than chemical intervention, right? But while we're continuing to try to keep those down, those seed heads fall onto my nice clean soil that's going to support these new seeds, and they just braid themselves into the soil. It's not just into our fabrics or into our pets' fur. It braids itself into the soil, and it's almost impossible to get those seed heads out, even if you're willing to try to pick them out. They have braided themselves in, and you're only going to be to a certain level successful. So it's an ongoing process when you don't use those chemical interventions. It's not going to happen in 1 year. And even with chemical interventions, unless you're just going to spend a tremendous amount, you're going to bring in new soil, lay it down over your entire area, maybe use a flamethrower before you even do that in the right conditions so that you can burn all of the seeds that are on the top of the ground. Then you cover them up with soil. Then you put a mulch or a ground cover on that, and you do it so that it's fast and it's professional style level would be required in order to not have it take at least a couple of years, no matter whether you use chemical intervention or not. So I don't believe that this is going to take very much longer than it would if I wanted to go in and douse all of this weed life that's out there that's undesirable with chemicals, right? Okay, gosh, there's just so much going on. Sometimes it's hard to even frame it into my thoughts here for you guys. Any questions about what we've talked about so far? There were quite a bit of in-depth discussion on some of those areas. Yes, please, Kindez.
So what's up?
Not
So
a lot. And you?
everything's up. Why is people using like getting so much sand?
They use sand in concrete. They use sand in a variety of ways in construction. They use it in all sorts of manufacturing processes. Let me just tag you in the video that was shared because it's a really good, cute little video. It's not short, but it's, I think, like 20 minutes at the longest, and I like to speed things up, but not everybody enjoys that.
Oh yeah, I 2X everything.
Exactly. I would love to maybe slow it down to like 1.5 or something, but I'm just so busy. And so how sand made from crushed glass is helping to rebuild Louisiana's coastlines. So it's really, really awesome thought process, really fiscally sustainable, right? Because that's always the argument, that working with the environment is not fiscally sound. And these guys have a great counter to that. It is definitely something that is working towards sustainability while creating a benefit for the economy at the same time. Really beautiful thing that they're doing here. And they can explain it so much better than I can, but it is used in so many different things, including in gardening. And I do want to let's just take a quick peek to see if desert, and works for gardening. Okay.
Oh,
I do believe that's a great benefit to being something that I would be using in my garden. I wouldn't feel as bad about utilizing it if I can verify that it's a desert sand. I'm sure that we could take too much of that as well. That's why I always take sparingly, right? That's always my goal. A lot of plants need some sand in order to do well. It's one of the things that Gardenary, the newer channel that we are featuring, talks about. I can't remember if I managed to get that one shared for you guys or not. Let's check and see. And she talks about using it in her garden.
yeah, I think my like I got sand. I have an arid area in the yard, so I
Mm-hmm.
use that, and I also like forage peat moss because I have rocks and stuff and peat moss all on the ground, and I mixed it up, and I think my aloe vera likes it because it's turning back green.
And are you in Arizona? Is that right?
Georgia.
Georgia. Gosh, I can't. I am so bad, you guys. I think I could have maybe remembered that if I hadn't have just spent 3 days. Just, oh my gosh, I was crawling all around, weeding all these areas, getting them all cleaned up. I finally had the time to spend on some of the really pretty areas. When I tell you guys, oh, and I tagged you in that sand discussion from Gardenary, and that is a quick little short there, right?
Appreciate it.
There are a lot of weeds everywhere, Benny. We've disturbed all the soil. So unless we keep it manicured or used for some specific purpose, weeds are going to come in. That's what they do. They heal damaged soil. So yeah, lots of weeds everywhere for sure, Benny. Your call. And oh, I told my husband again today, I'm like, we have to look for something that we can put the water in that has some sort of a tap or something at the bottom. I don't want it to be dark. I want it to be lighter color so it's not getting really yucky. I'm hoping maybe I can find something that's glass instead of, or even a wooden barrel that's not heavily treated, right? Something like that. And I wanna put weeds in water. I think that's just such an amazing idea. I think we've talked about it, but the reason that his idea is so brilliant, everyone, is because you don't use weeds in compost because you could introduce their seeds into your soil. But when you expose seeds to water for long periods, it's going to deteriorate them. If it's not a seed that's germinated specifically in a very watery environment, right? No, let's see. How can I, they're looking at a more traditional, if you soak seeds for a small amount of time, you can get them germinating a little bit earlier. Let's do this. We'll continuous.
You ever try
sorry.
clicking on that little lab button at the top right,
Oh, okay. We could try that if
like for searches? Like if you select all of that and copy it real quick. After you finish.
yeah, let me do this and see, and then we could walk through that because I haven't used it, and that's totally interesting. So continuous water immersion can damage or even destroy seeds. Prolonged saturation deprives seeds of necessary oxygen leading to rot, mold, or disease. Well, we're not looking to save them, so it's not going to, we're talking about soaking them. That's even more. It's not going to rot them or mold them. They're just going to slowly disintegrate into the water. I'll have to do some research and try to find some articles supporting what you're doing, but that would be my belief, and I want to try it out. So I love your idea, Kinda. Gorgeous. Okay, let's check and see if there's. Okay, yeah. So a great idea that I want to practice and see what the results are. I'm really excited about it. So I'll be hitting the thrift stores up for very specific items. I've got to definitely try to get money to get the Pathfinder licensed, and because it's an older vehicle, we don't use it all the time, but that's the vehicle that we can take to get large things like plywood for the Walipini and things like that. And I need to get the Walipini, all of these different things. So I've got to quit finding these great deals. They are great deals, but we can nickel and dime ourselves, even if they're deals that we'll utilize if we have big projects. So definitely got to put a little bit of a hold there on some fun gardening things that I want to do until we get some of the bigger things accomplished. And so tons of fun out there in the garden. How about you guys? Anything going on in your gardens or in your containers or any of your processes that you want to talk about?
Finally finished mulching. Got a chance to mulch the container right in time for the rain. And then
That'll keep
I
it
got
in
to
there better,
practice
yeah.
pulling the mulch back and planting one of the things that was in the pots back into the, my little raised bed area.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Benny's got.
Do you want to go do that Google thing so I could show you how to turn the AI search
Oh
on?
yes, definitely. And Benny, you want to look for your area. Maybe you guys have a longer growing season, but it's a little late to start pumpkin seeds at this time of the year. So you'll want to save those probably for next year. Okay, yeah, let's definitely do that. Okay, I'll click this, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you can, well, okay, well, you just do that. You can turn it on and scroll down a little and turn it on from there.
Did I do the wrong thing?
Mm-mm. You turn it
Okay.
on.
And so now do I click try AI mode?
Mm-hmm. It'll
Okay.
just take you to a Google page.
Mhm. All right. So,
Actually, it'll probably be better if you just go to google.com because it's gonna show, I'll show you how it shows up now.
okay.
All right. So now whenever you click something, you click on where it says that AI mode button. Mm-hmm. But after you like, well, yeah, you can get there. But like say if you're like looking for something like will continuous water immersion destroy seeds.
Mhm.
And you click,
Let me just copy it so that I can do that.
well, actually you can just now go down a little to the AI mode at the far left or up where it says all and to the
Okay.
that wait, I mean, yeah, that one. Boom.
Nice. Okay. Interesting. I'm gonna have to walk through that. It's so easy. It's almost hard to remember. Okay.
And then you can continue the conversation like, can I use this for a compost
Okay.
as a
And
method?
that's where kind of like Gemini, would I put it right here or is there something?
It's basically they've integrated it into the search
Okay.
as a different type of search to kind of get people because everybody's using AI anyway. They're like, well, let's just give it to the world for free as a
Um,
regular search.
right? No, it's great. Okay. So now I just want to ask it here. Will it continue the conversation? Because
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so, and that's where I hit ask anything to continue it.
Mm-hmm.
And
You can even hit the little voice thing to talk to it.
okay.
You get to see how Sabrina thinks.
Okay. I probably made that way more complicated than it needs to be, but would this method work to deliberately destroy weed seeds so that the water would contain the nutrients from the decomposed plants without the worry that the weed seeds will be reintroduced? And then hit enter. Interesting. Certain weed seeds can enter a state of dormancy when submerged, delaying germination, but potentially remaining viable until conditions improve. Um, So I'm thinking if you prepared one, then because it's saying slow process, which that I'm not worried about. It can take a while. That's a good thing. Time release nutrients are great. So it's saying it can take weeks or months. So I'm thinking if you had a barrel that you got started, got filled, kept it capped and contained, and set it off to the side and let it do maybe every quarter
Mhm.
during the warmer months. Or if you move it inside, if you have something like a garage that isn't going to get stinky. I don't know if it gets stinky. That's all like part of the experiment, right?
Yeah, I mean, it gets foul. Like it's definitely something to keep outside away from.
Okay, so it does get stinky.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. So if you stirred it a lot, because it's saying anaerobic, so if you stirred it, that would introduce water and it might help to eliminate some of the stink as well. Just a guess.
No, I mean,
Uh,
I just did it for the to have it as a compost tea. One thing I am kind of sad is that I learned later that because I was like it was attracting mosquitoes because it was like water outside. But then like this month, well, late this month, like a couple of days ago, the dragonflies came in. And I was
Oh.
like, where were you earlier this month, last month? You know what I'm saying? Now I
If
killed
you
all them
get a
too.
good biome going on your property, they will be there as soon as it's appropriate seasonally, right? Like they will be there to help more with gnat control, with pest control in the bug world.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so this is saying compost tea. Creating compost tea from well-composted materials can extract beneficial microbes and soluble nutrients, offering a less risky. So if you created a pile of the weeds for composting and then
Mhm.
let them compost a little bit and then get the tea from that is what it's saying. But I don't know. I think your idea is viable and I just want to check it out. I want to play with it. So
Put them straight. I take them out, dig them from the root, shake the dirt off, you know, bend them and, crack them a little bit and some
mhm,
straight no water in a bucket outside.
yeah. I think it's possible that it could be something that's good. So I definitely do. I want to check it out. And I have little areas where I won't be doing anything for quite a few years so that I could like go and just water it from that and see if it had a higher germinate because there's wind here all the time. It's going to blow seeds that are in weeds as we think of them into our areas. We'll have to always deal with that quite a bit.
Mhm.
And so if it has a higher amount of weeds than the areas that aren't watered from it. So yeah, I definitely want to play with your idea. I'm going to leave this search up and pull it out right over here so that it's kind of over there in those uh, member generated ideas or information. All right, and then let's pull up another one though so that we can do a search if we want to. All right.
The thing I do too, if we're just like doing a crawl in the whole yard, just
Mm-hmm.
laying them out on the concrete, like, and then letting them dry out, and then burn them, and then using the ash as
Yeah,
additional
that's a good idea too, right? We have a fire pit, like a raised
bonfire.
up fire pit that would definitely work for that. Excuse me, you guys. And in that other community that we're all a part of, for the most part, I'm not sure if there's somebody in, they joined us later and I didn't quite get to see their name, but I raised this up so that we can have both classes on the holiday weekend. I could still get done all these great things outside and then
I was,
go ahead.
I said I was supposed to be over there. Oh, it's at 11. Oh, you're Mountain Time.
I am in Mountain Time. Yep, I'll put it in Eastern Time right now. And so I don't ever compete. The two communities, I think, function very well together. This is where you get the money to pay for the gardening that we talk about in our community, right? So in my mind, it all goes together. And I've actually put together a little, I don't know what the proper titling is, but a piece on YouTube for each description where I invite everybody to join all of the different communities that we talk about here in these different classes where they kind of overlap a little bit. Okay, and so yes, 11 to 1, no, 11 to midnight. There we go. And that's AM. Okay. I meant to do it earlier, but I was literally out in the garden until it was time to get class started. So did not have time. All right. Definitely hope to see you guys all there as well. And so let's check and see if Mr. Benny's got some other pieces. Yes, definitely. You can look on your back of your package, but it should confirm that. And I don't have any experience with your area, but I don't think you guys have the longest growing season. It's Massachusetts, right? I think I finally got yours nailed. Georgia, a little different than Massachusetts. Massachusetts certainly being different than Utah, but more comparable than to Georgia because of the colds in our winters, right? Yeah, so definitely a different time there. And so, and it looks like my internet is gonna start maybe giving me some problems, guys. Let me check, just make sure. Yes, the dragonflies do help with the mosquitoes, don't they, Benny? I love watching the different layers. We really witnessed it at this last rental property that we had as we put out all of the clover and different things that were just there to help heal the landlady's yard, especially in the back. She didn't have the money or time to deal with it, and it was basically dead soil. So I love interacting with it, and she let me play with it. So we just were bringing the soil back to life so she could move on in whatever way she wanted, going forward a little more easily. And we watched it come in where, yeah, at first there were maybe a little bit less desirable bugs, but very quickly it changed to the desirable bugs coming in, getting rid of any that might have increased a little bit in that phase, and then starting to get rid of some of the bugs that had already been there, like the box elder style of bugs that are just those little beetles that can get really bad in little patches of infestation. And they definitely were in the backyard of this last property. And so we watched it all come in. And then at the last, you watch the dragonflies and the swallows and the robins. And oh, it was just so pretty. And every evening you just watched. First, the little gnats and things would come out, then the dragonflies would come out, then the birds would come out. It was really pretty. And so, oh, super fun. Maybe it's not my internet going out. Maybe it's being a little slow. It's popping up these weird boxes. I'm not sure there, but I think we've pretty well covered it. It does feel like there's something else that I might have wanted to talk about. You can't quite see it there, but I've got a ton of ending and what we're going to do with the sewing circle. As most of you are aware, that didn't work out very well previously. So instead, we're going to get together and we'll just interact in a Zoom like normal on my camera, and I'll be working. But while we're all interacting and just kind of talking and hanging out, hopefully you guys have some projects that you'll maybe work on at the same time. And then I'll have my video camera filming the area where my hands are doing the work, and I'll put them up together so that if anybody's interested in seeing what we're actually talking about when it comes up with what I'm doing, they can go and watch what my hands were doing while we were talking. All right. And that's how we'll start that sewing circle session, which will be our next class, I believe. No, it might be still, I think that was on Thursday. Too many, like I said, too many going. Our next one is the gardening Q&A on Thursday. That will be at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Mountain, 9:30 p.m. Central, and 10:30 p.m. Eastern, followed on Friday with our first sewing circle session, really more just kind of hanging out, talking about whatever's going on than any specific purpose. And yes, talking about what mending is taking place, but not a huge focus on that. Just have that post up later for those who are actually interested in what is being mended. They can watch what my hands are doing. So again, on that 2 and a maybe even a 3 on that one, right, Kenda? Fun stuff. All right, and then last but not least, Miss Tammy is going to have I can't remember, I think it's an hour-long session that I provided for you, my dear. No, a half hour to start. We can increase it if you want, but you said that you're not quite as comfortable here as you are in Lesko Help 2, where we all work together as well. We just watched that little message get ready to go out for the class that's going to take place there in, oh goodness, I think about 20 minutes. I can't remember. I keep trying to just keep everything going smoothly around all of these different classes, and I manage most of the time, but my brain can definitely not keep them in order. That is for sure. So let's actually just pop over there really quickly and take a look so that you're all able to join over there as well if you're interested. And for anyone watching on YouTube or in the community here in Collectively Rewilding that's new and is not a part of Let's Go Help 2, please look to those pieces in our YouTube description area where you can find all the information you need to become a part of this community as well. And so we will jump into our calendar here as well really quickly. For the next class coming up tonight will be at 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 9 o'clock p.m. Mountain, 10 o'clock p.m. Central, and yes, 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Are you in Eastern as well, Kinda? You were talking about that as well, right?
Yeah.
So for you gentlemen. All right. Hope to see you guys all there. and tons of fun. Have great material to talk about again during gardening Q&A. Hopefully you guys have a lot of questions, and we will see you all then. Enjoy this ending to your holiday weekend. I hope that you all had fun and got to hang out with family and do something special. Please feel free to unmute yourselves and say good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Oh, I
Good
did.
night, Tammy.
Good night, Sabrina.
You were awfully quiet tonight.
I've just been studying, not studying, just finishing up my schoolwork, and then I'll be yappeting soon, you know it.
I do, and I can't wait to hear about it in more detail in your tea and talk with Tammy, because I'm sure you'll have a lot to share with us. You'll get to actually go into all of this that you've been doing over the last 4 or 5 months?
16 weeks.
So about 4 months then, yeah?
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Now you can really walk us through what that was like and talk about anything within that area and really flesh it out. And I think you said maybe Vanessa joined you in that process and did it in her area as well?
Well, no, she just did it at her own home. You know, she canned some jam, right,
with you?
Vanessa?
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so she showed me a photo. She's like, I did it. I was like, oh, cool.
I've never canned anything. I've been around it. I've helped get the produce ready and things, but I've never done the canning myself.
Yeah, me either. I'm just in the books right now. Just
right. You research it, and it's a different level, but that's something that you can share with all of us, right?
For sure. I'm still learning, you guys.
And then Vanessa, you were unmuted there for a minute. Did you want to chime in?
Oh no, I was just waiting to say goodnight.
Sorry. All right, well then I guess we should jump to that then, guys. Everybody enjoy your evening.
Oh, Sabrina, I had a question for off the record.
I'm sorry?
I said I had a question for off the record.
Off the record? Okay. Well then let's see if I can do this. Okay, so no, I can't do that quite like that. Let's see. Okay, we'll do it like this. I know how we can do this. All right, everybody, have a good night. And now we will go into our next meeting in just a little bit. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Thank you, guys.